Happy Sunday morning.
So glad to be here.
I'm Tiff.
And I'm Jack. We're tiffandjack.com. We're so glad to join you here on a Sunday morning. And if you're here with us, we say thank you.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about 4 simple steps to utilizing the law of attraction. The law of attraction is how we live our entire life, and we are thrilled to talk about it because we have these simple, easy steps. We're going to talk about one step in particular very deeply, which is probably the hardest step. Okay, so let's get started with talking about just the 4 steps, just easily talking about. The fact is that you have to accept where you are or become a witness of it. The next one is to make a decision and choose to have what you want. The 3rd step is surrender. And the 4th step is to have fun. So the one step that we're going to talk about today that is probably the most difficult is surrender. Now, Abraham will talk about it in the way of saying the art of allowing, or Deepak will talk about it in the way of talking about detachment. And we talk about it in the way of surrender. So what we're going to do is we're going to share our story with you about our life of surrender. And this might...
what were you going to say? This might
be like the deepest share we've ever shared.
Especially Facebook Live. No question about it. And you have to have a little bit of surrender when you push the go live button.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You never know who's going to be on here.
And like Tiff said, we're going to be talking about our own story of surrender. And we'll go deeper into surrender. And we'll talk again, recap the 4 steps of a way to simplify the law of attraction. Surrender does not mean give up. No. We'll go deeper into that. But first we need to share our story of surrender.
So I'll start with sharing, and then Jack and I will just kind of go back and forth. We have quite the story. In our coaching practice, these are the 4 steps that we teach all of our clients because we talk a lot about the law of attraction. It is one of the most powerful things that you can understand to create the life that you want. And surrender is the most amazing thing. And we have lived a life together in surrender. And we have created something pretty amazing in our life with our relationship, our family, and our business. And so we're going to share with you a little bit about what has happened. We would never teach something that we do not live. So I'll start off by sharing when I was 5. I remember having a conversation with my mom. And I told her, I said, if I could marry a half man and half woman, then I think I'd be really happy. And I want to have 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. And I'm not sure what my mom thought. I just remember having the conversation and thinking to myself as a little kid, well, girls are really amazing and so are boys. So if you had both in one person, that would be amazing. So, as you can see, and if you don't know this, Jack being transgender, I wouldn't say half man, half woman. I'd definitely say all man, but I've had an experience with Jack being perceived as a woman, and now he has transitioned, and it's been amazing.
And that'll be part of my surrender story.
Yes, and I do have 3 boys and 3 girls. Wild, right?
She had 2 of her own, and I had 4 of them.
Yes. Yes. So just moving through my life quickly, I learned early on in life the art of surrender, or the gift of surrender, by how I chose to watch my mom. And my mom is a single parent, just really setting her intention clearly and turning it over to God. And this morning when I woke up, I was like awakened with the idea that we are supposed to talk about surrender today. And immediately I remembered Oprah's story about her getting the job and her role in The Color Purple.
Amazing story.
And so I watched the video on her story, and it just filled me with such spirit, because I know for a fact that if you will live in a place of surrender, or the art of allowing, or detachment, you will be able to create the life that you want. And so on this...
I'll stick in the link to that video, to Oprah's Color Purple story, into the show notes of our video today when we're done.
So as I move on with my story, I just want to share, yes, I knew exactly the person that I wanted to marry. I knew how many kids I wanted. I knew what kind of life that I wanted, but I had no idea what it would take to actually create that experience. And so we'll be sharing more about that. But right now, Jack will share a little bit about his experience.
Here we go. As a little person, I grew up on a 2,000-acre ranch, and it was absolutely exquisite, southeastern Idaho. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. And as a little person, I loved all things outside. I loved riding horses. I loved walking fence rails with my cousin. We had so much fun. He and I were very best friends. We were a month apart in age, and life was really idyllic. It was very free and open, and freedom was really my word. That was the word that I always wanted and just felt so free, and life was really, really good. And as I was growing and loving the outdoors, I mean, everything we did was outside, whether it was winter or summer or fall or spring, it didn't matter. And I'd help my dad feed the cows and drive the truck even when I was little, maybe 4 or 5, and I'd hop in his truck and he'd put it in first gear and he'd hop on the back and be feeding the cows off the back. And I was supposed to steer. That's all I had to do was steer. And sometimes I would not be steering and my dad would have to jump off of the truck and jump in and steer the truck. So we wouldn't run into a cow or a tree or anything. And just very, very fond memories, me being the youngest of 7 kids, and very rural setting. I also grew up extremely religious, and we had very clear ideas of who we were supposed to be, how we were supposed to be, and which rules we were supposed to follow so that we would be acceptable to God. And as I was growing up, I always felt, if I would have thought back how I felt like a boy, I mean, I just felt like I was one of the boys, and my cousin being my very best friend, he and I, we had so much fun together. And then when I was 11 years old, my father was killed in a farming accident, and it was tragic and very, very difficult. And in that moment, everything, oh boy, it was rough. Any of you that lose someone, you know. And as an 11-year-old, my life as I knew it began to shift and change, and I had family members that really came in, siblings that stepped up and took over and did a lot of the farm work and really made a difference in my life. And it was hard and amazing. And after my dad died is when I started developing, I guess, and my world changed, because when I was young, I could just do all the things the boys did. And as I got older, I knew I was supposed to fit into a stereotype or into the role that I was supposed to live as a girl, which meant, where I grew up, typically the culture of the religion in the family was that you get married young and you have kids and you be a good person so that you can be good before God, that you're living righteously so that you'll be able to be with God again someday. And I was really good at following the rules and just putting aside who I felt like I was on the inside, and just trying to be good and do the things I was supposed to do. So I did. I went to BYU and I got married really early. Actually met my ex-husband hitchhiking to the ski hill, and we skied and had a great time together, and we were great friends and comrades, but everything between us intimately was a disaster. And I didn't know why. I just had a deep sense that there was something wrong with me. And those are the words I used. That's the label I put on myself at the time, that there was just something that was wrong with me. And I didn't know what it was, but it felt like it had to do with the way that I thought and about my sexuality, and I didn't know what that was. And I was married for 19 years. We had 4 kids, love our kids. And we ended up getting divorced and moving, both of us going on our own direction. But where my story began to shift dramatically is when I met Tiff. And when I met Tiff, it started opening up a new reality for me, because I was beginning to get a sense of my identity, who I felt on the inside, and being willing to listen to what my heart was calling to, and listen to what my gut was saying, and lean into that place. And when when I met Tiff, it was an interesting thing. We were in a 12-step meeting of all places. You know, you're not supposed to date the people you meet there, but
Whatever.
we met, and it was actually the way Tiff spoke and her message, the way she was the word I would have used then is faith. She had so much faith and trust in God to deliver her into everything that she wanted. And when she shared about her mom, I know where she got a lot of that was growing up with her mom. Like we've shared the stories about her mom who had her list that she'd put on the back of the door every year of everything she wanted. And by the end of the year, she'd show the kids, Tiff and her brothers, look, this came in, this came in, this came in. Everything she wanted every year was always delivered by God. And so Tiff had that same faith-based way of being. And when I started listening to her, we became very close, very, very, very fast. It was the sound of her voice and how she was talking and the feeling of her and her cleavage. Okay? Her boobs.
Did you really just say
I
that?
did.
On live Facebook, on live TV?
I know. I cannot help myself because it woke me up. I did not know what to think. This was a new experience that I was having, and I didn't know what to make of it. But I began to open up to the possibility of following my heart and allowing myself to do what felt in alignment for me, aside from my logical brain, which was screaming at me, no, 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 no. You have to live your life in the box, by the rules, doing all the things that you know you're here to do, how you're supposed to be. And there was an entirely other part of me that was saying, but it feels like this person is my home place, that this person is my other part of me that I have been missing forever. And thus our journey together began.
So I'm going to move forward from my childhood up to when I went to the 12-step meeting. It was Overeaters Anonymous. I was 312 pounds, miserable as hell. Had been in a marriage for 15 years to the nicest person. Like, I really married a really nice, kind person, but we never were a match. Things just wouldn't work. And there wasn't resolution in issues and conflicts. We just really struggled. We loved each other, but we struggled, and we were not a very good match. And by the time I went into the 12-step meeting, for 2 years, I kept having this prompting come through with this message. Go to an Overeaters Anonymous meeting. I'm like, no, that is ridiculous. I'm not going to go to an Overeaters Anonymous.
See the eye roll? Did you catch that?
Like, wow. So, after a 2-year period, I finally said, okay, I am sitting on the couch with a heart monitor on me, measuring my heartbeats and stuff because I'm having so many health issues. I'm over 300 pounds. And I'm ready to take a dirt nap. And I'm not kidding. I was so done. And I remember sitting on the couch one day thinking, something has got to change. I cannot live like this anymore. I have suffered with years of terrible depression. At that point, I had been in bed about 70% of my life with terrible depression on 30 drugs a day just to keep my mental health intact and to not die. I was in such bad shape. So I went into this meeting and I sit in this class and all these people are talking about this woman named Susie. And oh, Susie's so amazing. Susie's so beautiful. Susie is the most loving person. Susie, Susie, Susie. And I thought, who is this chick? Like, she is not here. And I guess she had been traveling around for a month. And Jack, Susie at the time, was in Europe with his daughter. And they were traveling, and so I just kept going back to the meeting. Well, one day, there's this woman that walks in the door, and it's Susie, and she has this beautiful smile, and I look at this person, and I go, who is that? It feels like my home just walked through the door. Now, you have to understand, I've never felt any feeling like that before, and I've never had sexual attraction to a woman, and I couldn't even recognize that it might be something like that. I just thought, that person is my person. It just was this feeling of like, finally, where have you been? Totally confused me. I had no idea. Anyway, we didn't really chat or anything, but I had a really interesting experience. Now, if anyone knows me, they know I'm a psychic medium and I do all kinds of woo-woo stuff. And I go home, go to bed that night, and I'm telling my husband at the time I met the most amazing person, and there's just such a connection. I can't even describe it. I go to sleep, have this dream. And in my dream, Susie's knocking at the door, and I open the door, and she has this porcelain snake in her hand, and she says, "I have a gift for you." And I was like, it was this iridescent, gorgeous white snake. And I just thought, well, that's an interesting gift. Thank you so much. But it was really beautiful. And so I invited her in, and I put this snake on the mantle. And I noticed that there was a man behind her, just kind of hanging out with her, tarrying with her. And she didn't know. And I was like, well, who's this man with dark, thick hair? And he's wearing a kind of a European sweater. And he looks very loving and kind, and she doesn't know that he's right there. And of course I'm like trying to figure out who this is in my dream, but we start talking, and all of a sudden something pushes the snake off of the mantle, and it shatters on the ground, and I am mortified. And Susie looks down with me, and I'm like, I am so sorry. So we both reach down to touch this, to pick up these pieces. And as we pick up these pieces, all of a sudden our hands both touch the pieces, and it's made perfect. Like all of a sudden it comes back together and is perfect. And I hear the clearest voice say to me, "You can do anything if you do it together." And then I woke up, and I knew I was supposed to call and tell her, and we had not even had a conversation. And at the same time, I'm looking over at my husband at the time, and I'm thinking, why am I having a dream about her this way and not about you? And so that was the beginning of a lot of confusion and a lot of surrender for me. So over the next few days, I just kept getting this nagging, terrible feeling. You have got to call and tell her this dream. And I'm like, there is no effing way I'm calling her and telling her this dream. We don't even know each other, and she will think I'm totally insane. And the feeling got stronger and stronger, and it was so painful, the feeling, that it was easier to tell someone and have them think I'm nuts than feel that feeling. So I call and tell her this dream.
And here's my side of the story with that. So as we were in the month when we met was the month of my dad's death, the anniversary of my dad's death. And that was always a very emotional time. And it is for all of us when we lose somebody that time of year when they had passed. It carries the same energy every year, so you'll feel the depth of it. You feel it. So I was feeling very undone, so to speak. And Tiff, I was sitting in the meeting and heard an audible voice say to me, "You need to listen to her, to Tiff. She has something to tell you." Now, I'm not someone that has that experience. I'm not someone that I would say, oh, I'm very spiritually gifted and this and that. But I was that day. And so when she called me, I had no doubt that she had something to tell me, and I was open to receive it. And when she started talking, and she was talking about the man behind me, guess who it was? It was my dad. And let me tell you the rest of that story. When my dad died, some well-meaning neighbor said he has a much more important work to do on the other side, which was in line with the cultural and the religious beliefs, that he was doing missionary work. And in my 11-year-old mind, I took that to mean that I didn't matter to him, that he had more important things to do than to be with me. And so I figured, I just decided and believed that he was busy, that he was too busy for me, and that his presence was not with me. And it was that dream that woke me up to him being there, and he kept coming through over and over and over. And he would come through and say things and do things in a way. He was always a huge tease when he was alive, still a tease, okay? And he would come through in ways to help me get the message that he was right here with me. And that was one of the most profound gifts that Tiff gave me and brought into my world, was my dad's presence back into my daily life. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I was so glad.
You know, the reason I share this dream, we've got to get our thing working so that you can actually see us. The reason I share this dream is the thing, you can do anything if you do it together, has saw us through so much stuff. Living in surrender has been probably one of the most difficult things that I've ever done. And we're going to share even a little more on how how much surrender we've lived in. So let's speed up a little bit. And after a year after knowing Jack, I was able to admit to myself that I actually was in love with this person. It didn't make sense to me because this person was a girl, and I was married to someone else, and our marriage was unraveling quickly, and I didn't know what to do. So for the next 3 years, I fasted. Now, I came from the LDS religion, so I was a Mormon, and I would fast for 24 hours once a week for 3 years to ask God to help me not be gay.
Go without food and water.
Yeah. And I was going through hell, let me tell you, because of how I was conditioned to think and what I thought that meant. But there was this feeling between the two of us that was absolutely undeniable, and I could not imagine my life without Jack. In fact, I remember having a dream once of not being in Jack's life anymore, and saw him driving down the road in a truck, and I saw him, and the death feeling of emptiness was so huge that I woke up sobbing, and I ran into the bathroom and begged God to not take Jack out of my experience. So I didn't really know what to do with that, so I just fasted and prayed, and I talked to my husband a lot about my feelings. At the time, he knew about it, he understood, he didn't take it too seriously, thought it would all pass, but it didn't pass. And I had to make some decisions. Do I stay in a marriage that is dead, or do I challenge every single thing that is familiar to me, everything that I have believed? I have my 2 kids that I've raised a certain way. I had a very strong belief in where I was married in the temple, and I believed that after I die that I'd have my eternal family because we were sealed together. And all this time that I'm going through all this, Jack is in the middle of a divorce and having to, we were not a couple in an intimate way at that time, but we were always together. We couldn't be apart. It just was the craziest thing. And we were having all these amazing experiences together. And here we are, and it's like we're being faced to make some decisions that would change and alter every single thing in our life.
I think you can let go.
Okay. Yeah. So, after 3 years of fasting and prayer and my love growing stronger and stronger, I crossed the line and we kissed. Oh my God. It was amazing. And I knew at that point that I had to take a break from the religion that I understood. I had to start figuring out how to dissolve a marriage that I was committed to, and to take a walk with God and the universe and create a life that I felt was absolutely the right thing for me. And that meant being willing to lose it all. This is where surrender for me came in 100%. There was no other way than to completely trust that God had my back, that the universe had my back, and that if I was making a horrific decision, that somehow it would get through to me and I would not do that. So I went on a walk with God. And you have to remember, both of our families, they were very, very LDS. We had raised our children in the church, and I was in love with what appeared to be a woman. I mean, and both Jack and I were spiritual giants in our family. So as you can imagine, our family was like, what are
there was a lot of fallout
doing? So I'll let you.
Yeah, there was a lot of fallout. We just both dealt with a lot of fear from our family, from our closest people, and questioning us and wondering what we were doing. And we just kept taking one step, trusting and surrendering every step of the way, following our heart every step of the way. We had to deal with a lot of harsh words and some legal stuff, and crazy things went down that we were dealing with, and it just felt almost impossible, especially with us running our business and starting our business and doing it all together and being seen and being out there and putting ourselves out there, taking one step into the dark over and over and over. And that is what we kept doing, and we still do that. And it's through the power of surrender that we have the power, the personal power, and trusting that the universe indeed has our back every step of the way, and it has. But without us making the decisions, choosing what we want, being willing to accept that things may not be not knowing what is going to be as we lean in and make another decision, everything comes together and it has over and over and over.
So one night I was laying in bed before I had made all these decisions to shift my life into what I have now. And I was sobbing. I was so afraid I cannot even describe the fear. I was sobbing and I fell asleep. And I start having this dream. And I'm dreaming that I am in this old car and I'm driving in the winter, and it is a complete and total whiteout. I can't see anything, but I know the road that I'm on, and I know that along the side of the road are all these trees, and I know that at any minute I am going to slam into a tree and I am dead. I'm like, I'm going to be dead. I just can't do this. I can't see where I'm going. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, I am so afraid I'm going to die. I'm just going to let go of the wheel and let the car take me wherever. So I put my head down and I'm like, I'm going to be dead any second. And I just brace for death. And the car keeps driving and it just keeps driving. And I'm like, why is the car not crashing? So I look up and there's Jesus driving the car. And I have the most calm feeling in my body. And I see this light down the road and Jesus keeps driving me in the car. And we get to this beautiful light, and inside that light is this amazing, gorgeous cottage with flowers and all these beautiful things, which if you know me, my home and family and all those things are the most important things to me. So of course I'm looking at that going, oh, that is the most amazing thing. And then Jesus turns to me and says, this is for you. And then I woke up and it was that surrender. That was that surrender message of like, stop forcing, stop trying
fighting.
To see everything, allow the universe to take over, and you'll get to exactly what it is that you want. And
What a message.
that has happened. That has
Over and
happened.
over.
That's where I live now. And when Jack and I started our business, we were going through all of this, and we were scared. We were afraid that all of a sudden, our business wouldn't go and that people wouldn't really want to come and see us for coaching. We had so many fears. And then when we finally did get together, Jack says, I'm transgender.
Let's just put a little more opportunity for surrender.
I was like, what the
It
F?
has been such a road. And getting here has been the most amazing journey of our life. And me really waking up to my own, who am I really? I had a belief and a knowing that I was invisible. And I say that not in any other way than I mean it. I meant it. I felt, living as a transgender person, you just feel, at least I did, I felt completely invisible. And it was okay with me. I just thought, well, this is the way it is. God can see everyone else, but I'm not seen. And that was my reference. That's how I believed. But little by little, I started seeing myself more and more and more until Tiff and I could have the conversation about me being transgender. And let me tell you, we had that conversation and talked about it for, it came
a long
up,
time.
Yeah, 2 years. And I kept shelving it, thinking, no. And I finally told Tiff, I'm not doing it. It's not, I can't do it to you, and I can't do it to the kids. I cannot do this. It's going to be too much on everyone to deal with. And 2 years after the fact, Tiff and I were driving along, and we were talking about some of our clients, and they're also our friends, but they were transitioning. And they had come to grips with who they were, and through working with us and talking with us, they made their own decisions to transition, and they were moving forward with their transition, their changing their gender from the female to the male gender. And as we were driving, Tiff just looked over at me, and what did you say to me?
I said, have you thought about transitioning anymore? And Jack said no. And I said, can I ask you a question? If you were blind and you knew that there was a surgery that you could have that would make it so you could see and function as yourself, would you do it? And Jack's like, of course I would. That's a ridiculous question. And then I said, then what are you waiting for? And Jack said, are you serious? And I said, I am very serious. It's time.
Yeah, and it was so easy to talk about. And even as we were discussing it, my heart wanted it. I wanted it. If I asked myself the question, like we brought up in one of our live videos, if everyone were happy with what you chose, what would you choose? If you knew everyone would be backing you and supporting you? Well, I would have chosen to transition, but I didn't have the courage to think I could do something that seemed so ultimately selfish, for me to love myself and myself enough to transition and run the risk of losing the love and affection of my wife and my children and my family and my extended family, our friends, our clients. I didn't know if all of you could handle it. I didn't know how to do it.
We didn't even know if our business would survive.
We didn't know. We just didn't know. And I made the decision because I knew that to be true to me, I had to do this. So here I am, a year and a half into my medical transition on testosterone therapy. And I had top surgery, which is the removal of my breasts, this last summer. And I'm full on. We are in and we're going. And you, our friends and Facebook friends, have been the most supportive, amazing place for this journey that we've been on all the way across, but especially with the transgender piece. Thank you so much.
And the public's been
for
amazing.
your love. And some of our family members, even though we understand how difficult it's been, have just fully loved and embraced us. And then there are a lot of family members that really don't. And we have dealt with some fallout and some kickback and
some
that's
nasty,
okay.
nasty shit.
That's okay. We just keep moving forward. And I believe that love is the greatest power on earth, because it is.
It is.
And
so is surrender.
Yeah, it is.
So our message today is about surrender, and where we stand now in our life from what we have walked through in the last 9 years is like we could talk about it for an hour, all the miracles that we saw, one thing after another, because we've lived in a constant state of surrender and still do. And when I first started the live video just a few minutes ago, we were talking about acceptance. Let's talk about that just really quickly. You have to accept where you are. A lot of people live in the land of denial, so you have to accept it. And a better way to even say it is be a witness of what's happening in your experience. Become the observer. Say, okay, it's kind of like if you want to go to California and you're in Idaho, you have to accept you're in Idaho so you know how to get to California. So accept where you are in your life.
First step.
Then make a decision. Number 2, make a decision to have what you want. That means say, okay, I'm choosing to have this thing.
I'm choosing to do this, to be this, to have this.
Yes. And then once you make that decision, that is where surrender comes in. That's where you let go and let God. That's where the
You're
art
letting
of
go of
allowing.
the how. You're not letting go of what you want. You're not giving up on your dream. You're letting go of how it gets here.
Yes.
And the details and the managing of those details.
That's the universe's job, or the God of your understanding. That is where you have your own personal manager. So you accept where you are, then you make a decision of what you want, and then you surrender it. You let go of the how so that you can allow the universe to come in and take care of the details. And then while you do that, you go out, number 4, and you have joy or fun in your life, because that puts you in a frequency of happiness and joy and excitement. It's a high vibe.
Yeah.
And it's like Jack said, it's the high vibrational way of being, so that you can actually receive what's coming into you. And when you do make decisions and you surrender, sometimes it looks like things might be falling apart, but I promise you what's really happening is that your life is falling into place. But sometimes you have to have a clearing, and things have to be cleared out so that there's room for you to receive what you actually want. And it can be scary as hell. But I'm telling you, if you know these 4 steps and you focus on them and you really trust the universe has got you, everything is going to come to you even better than what you decided to have.
Absolutely.
So that is our message today, and we loved sharing.
We did. Thank you so much.
Our story.
And thank you for being here, Bart. You're an inspiration to me. Darian, thank you for being here. Joanna, Jennifer, Katie, Kat, all of you, thank you so much for joining us. And if you would love our free gift, we would love to share our free gift with you. Jump over to our Facebook, Tiff and Jack, our fan page on Facebook, and grab your free gift, which is about getting relief in 30 seconds or less. And we'd love it if you'd like our page if you do. And if not, then that's okay too. We still love you. Have a beautiful day, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Jennifer, we're glad you're here.
And don't forget to come back when we upload this.
The link.
The link to Oprah's story of surrender. Extremely inspiring. So click on it and watch and just feel how powerful it is. It's so awesome.
Have the most beautiful day ever.
Yes.
Sending you our love.
Bye.